Okay, so in the last class we started with the to find out the normal modes of water. So that is how we do it. First we generated the reducible representation, this one. So using the Cartesian coordinates, right? And then we when we use the Cartesian coordinates, so that is basically the that includes translations, rotations, and vibrations, right? So, but our goal was to find out what is going to be the representations for the vibrations. So, and therefore, what we did is like from the total number of representations. So this is basically a reducible representation. What I did is subtracted the translation. Of course, these are coming from this like translation goes along z, x, and y, right? So that is a1, then b1 and b2, right? And then rotations, they go along rz, ry, and rx. So rz goes along a2, ry goes along b1, and rx goes along b2. So that is the rotations we are going to get it. Now to get the vibrations, take the total representations from this and then subtract the translations and rotations, right? So that's what we get 2a1 plus b2. Okay, in the last class, Anmol asked why we did not go for the bond coordinates. Yeah, here we go. Like if we have these representations for vibrations, now the difficulty in this, we really do not know what is the one type of vibrations, how they look like, nor B2, right? So therefore, we must take the help of internal coordinates or the bond coordinates, right? So that is the one disadvantage of this. But again, we have advantages. Then we'll discuss it in the later part of this course, right? Okay, let's go to the bond coordinates, right? So if I take this water molecule, now forget about Cartesian coordinates now. Of course, my z-axis will go along this, but other than that, I'm not going to worry about the Cartesian coordinates for the time being. So we'll go for the bond coordinates. So oxygen is here. Hydrogen 1 is connected with the oxygen with R1 bond coordinates, and this hydrogen is connected with oxygen with R2, and then angle between these is going to be alpha, right? So my choice of bases is now is going to be R1, R2, and alpha. Like so, these are the choice. These are the bases I'm going to use. Now, using this basis, exactly same pattern the way we had done for the Cartesian coordinates, we will do it for this bond coordinate. So we'll generate the reducible representation for using this bond vectors or the bond coordinates, whatever you say, right? Now how do we do this? Now let's go like again for each operation how they change this, right? So like if we go for identity, now all of you know that we are not going to do anything, no change. So R1 remains R1, R2 remains R2, and alpha of course remains alpha, right? So there is no change. So therefore, if I take a 3 by 3 matrix, so that is going to be something like this. So that is R1 prime, if I let's say write to my new coordinates, and then this is going to be R2 prime, and this is alpha. So right now This is alpha prime, right? So those are the new bond coordinates. This can be written in terms of the old, that means R1, R2, and alpha, but then I have to have a matrix which is going to be something like a kind of identity matrix, right? So this is going to be the old R1, R2, and then this is going to be alpha, right? So if I do this identity for identity operation, then of course you must be realize that the R1 prime, basically the R1, R2 prime is R2, and alpha prime is going to be alpha. So therefore my matrix should go like this: 1, 0, 0, right? And then it is going to be 0, 1, 0, right? And this is going to be 0, 0, 1, right? So it is like the way I get. So 1 into R1 plus 0 into R2 plus 0 into alpha. So that is R1 prime is R1, and it's like this. So R2 prime is going to be 0 into R1 plus 1 into R2 plus 0 into alpha, right? So this is the matrix basically for the transformation, right? So therefore the character is going to be sum of this 1 plus 1 plus 1, that is 3. So if I go for the internal coordinate representations, right? So therefore that should be like, I should go, character is going to be 3 here, right? So like that we can work it out for the C2 and sigma b prime, right? So now if you go for C2, let's see how this molecule is going to look like actually. So that is if I go look at here, so that's what I've just put it side by side, but that is not like exactly don't look at the arrow, otherwise it's basically C2, because this R1 inverted to this, and then this R2 inverted to this. Of course alpha remains alpha, that is not going to change anything, right? So if I want to make matrices for this, I should have the matrix representation, again 3 by 3 matrix, right? So let me get this. So this can gives you the idea. So this was identity matrix, which I have already done it on the screen, right? And then this is going to be C2. Now why is it C2? Look at here. This is, if I do C2 along Z, right, either clockwise or anti-clockwise, then what happen? R1 goes to R2, right? So therefore this is the matrix row I am going to get it. So that means it is R1 is going to, R1 prime is going to come in terms of R2. So that is going to be 0, 1, 1 connected to R2, and then this is again 0, that is alpha, right? So that is the way it goes, right? So actually here the rotation actually taken as a anti-clockwise rotation. So that is the way you can think about, right? So or clockwise, whatever it is. So depending on that, we have to look at. So like then R2 comes here. So that means this is going to be actually the R1, R2 prime is going to be actually the R1, right? So therefore, it is going to be 1, 0, and 0, right? So that is where it goes. Now the alpha, this alpha and this alpha actually the same, except that like it does not have any direction. So this only think about the magnitude. So the alpha remains alpha. So this is going to be 1. So that is going to be 0, 0, 1. So that is alpha prime is going to be alpha. So that is 0, 0, 1. Right. Exactly in the same notion, if I go for the sigma xz or sigma b xz, so then I take this plane, and of course again you get this exactly similar picture. So therefore this matrix is going to be like this. And if I go for YZ, then of course, like all the atoms are on the plane, and then R1 remains alpha, R2 remains alpha, and R1 remains R1, R2 remains R2, and this alpha remains unchanged. So then this one is going to be going exactly like same for the matrix representation for the identity, right? So now if we get all the characters like this, sum them up, then I get 3 here. So that is going to be the representation what we are going to get it, right? So for this is going to be 3, right? Then for C2 is going to be 0 plus 0 plus 1, so that is going to be 1. Sigma V x z, again it is going to be 1, and then for sigma V y z is going to be 3. Okay. Now the good part of this water molecule is that now the angle alpha, it does not exchange with either R1 and R2. So therefore, we can split these matrices and get the basis R1 and R2 separately and alpha separately, right? So the easiest way to do this, look at these matrices. How can we block factor? Like, look at here, this is all our off diagonals are 0, that is fine. But in this case, I'm having off diagonal here, so I cannot really block this, right? So this is also like this. So let me do it, then you can understand. Let like block factor like this. For all of them, it has to be the same fashion, right? Like this. Then it is going to be like that, right? Again, this is going to be this. Again, this is going to be this, right? Now, if you look at this, we can go for R1 prime and R2 prime. So this block, this block, this block, and this block, it will come together. So if I take the character for this, so this is going to be R1, this 1 plus 1, that is going to be 2 for identity, right? This is going to be 0. Again, this is going to be 0. And this is going to be 2, right? Now, if you go for the second block, that means this one, this one, this one, and this one, this is for alpha. So that all the values are going to be 1, 1, 1, and 1, right? So that's what the we get it using in terms of the matrix. But if some of you are maybe like start thinking what this guy is doing, because this is a matrix, I don't know matrix. So if I'm going to go for a simplified way. Don't worry about that. So now I'm going to go for the way we have learned the vector unshifted rule, right? So that we can do it. Okay, so vector unshifted rule, what we basically learned here, we will not say vector unshifted rule. Here we will say unshifted basis R1, R2, and alpha, right? Now, if R1 remains here and not changing, then it is going to be 1. If R2 remains in the same place, this contribution is going to be +1, and alpha also, if remains in the same place, that is going to be 1. So if we go for this, now look at here how we do this. Now if we do identity, R1 remains R1, R2 remains R1, and alpha remains alpha. So contribution from R1 is +1, R2 +1, and from alpha +1. So that is going to be 3. And if we split them, R1 and R2, of course, this is going to be 2, and alpha is going to be 1, right? Now, if I do C2 along this axis, right, then what happened? The structure is here. So R1 converted to R2, R2 brings here, that comes here, and then of course alpha remains in the same position, right? So therefore, what we can say is that only alpha contributes +1, R1 and R2 they contribute 0, right? So therefore, if we go for C2, the total is going to be 0 for this, 0 for this, but 1 for this alpha. So therefore, this is going to be 1, right? Now, again, if we split it up in terms of R1 or R2, so R1 and R2 changes the position. So therefore, it is going to be 0 from each of them, and so addition is 0, and but alpha remains unchanged. So therefore, it is going to be 1, right? Now, if we go sigma b is exactly same scenario, so I'm not going to repeat this. If we go for sigma b prime, now sigma b prime, what you will realize is that it's plane of the screen of this computer. So therefore, R1 remains R1, R2 remains R1, and alpha remains alpha. So that is almost similar to your identity. So therefore, it is going to be contribution from each of them 1 plus 1 plus 1. So that is going to be 3. Now, if we split them, so that is R1, R2 will contribute. R1, R2 will contribute 1 plus 1. So that is 2, and alpha is going to be 1, right? So that is kind of using a vector unshifted rule. If you are not comfortable with the matrix, you can go with that. So what I try to convince you that we have done it correctly using either matrix representations or using the vector unshifted rule, right? So now what we have to do, like previous one, that these are the total representations, all right? Now how they are going to be reduced in terms of the irreducible representation, right? So how many irreducible representations are going to come here? So to do that, actually in practice, you should be able to using the reduction formula of what we did. So that is uh, the n number of irreducible representation coming under this. But in this case, we can very easily quickly do this using the inspecting the this character table, right? So and let me erase this, then it will be visible clearly, right? Now, if I do inspect this, look at here. In this case, right, this 2 0 0 2, right? Now, looking at this character table, I think you can easily figure it out which of these two I should add, and I should get this representation, and that is nothing but here E1 and B2, right? So look at here, this is 1 plus 1, that is going to be 2, 1 minus 1 0, 1 minus 1 0, again 1 and 1 is going to be 2, right? So therefore, I can just without reducing it using the reduction formula, I can easily write them just by inspecting the character table. So that is going to be E1 plus B2, right? Okay, I hope you understand that. And this alpha, of course, like if you look at here, all are 1, so that is going to be totally symmetric representation, that is A1, right? So now then I should be able to getting this, just summing them up, because this is coming from this. So therefore, I should be able to add this, and I should get this, and you can verify that that should come 2 into A1 plus B2. Right. So what does that mean is that, so if we use the internal coordinates, right, then, or the bond coordinates, we get this representation. So that now here that we have to realize that now we have used bond coordinate, so we get only for the vibrational representation or the normal mode representation. So 2a1 plus b2, I think that's what we get it from the Cartesian coordinates also, right? So in this particular case, we really are not getting any difference either using the Cartesian coordinates or from the bond coordinates, right? So there is not difficulty. But in some other cases, we might get differences, so that we should discuss what is going to happen in that case, right? Okay, so now what does this tells in addition to Cartesian coordinate is that now we can look at here the R1 and R2 involve in the normal modes, one of the A1 and B2. So that means I'll be getting two normal mode. One is totally symmetric A1, another is B2, and those normal modes involve R1 and R2 only, no alpha in there, right? So this is basically, you can think about that. So that must go for the stretching, right? Now this stretching, of course, depends on the whether they are in phase or they're out of phase. So depending on that, I'm going to get totally symmetric or it is going to be B2. So that we'll see how we can do this. And if you go for alpha, then it goes along A1. So that confirms that bending must be only A1 type, so totally symmetric type, right? So that's what is going to be there, right? Okay, now I'm going to show you the